In the ancient texts of the Bible, there exists a mysterious and often overlooked group of beings, the Nephilim. These enigmatic figures are mentioned in the book of Genesis, but their true nature and purpose remain shrouded in secrecy, sparking debate and intrigue among scholars and spiritual seekers for centuries. Who were the Nephilim? Were they fallen angels, human-angel hybrids, or perhaps something entirely different? In today's world, as we witness the rapid advancement of technology and the constant shift in our understanding of reality, the question arises, are the Nephilim returning? This question is not just a theological one. It's one that touches on some of the most profound mysteries of our existence. The Nephilim were said to be giants, beings of great power and wisdom, but also beings whose actions were so corrupting that they were ultimately destroyed in the Great Flood. Yet their legacy doesn't seem to have faded. Instead, it appears to be woven into the very fabric of our modern world, echoing through ancient prophecies, myths, and modern-day phenomena. But what if the story of the Nephilim isn't over? What if they're returning in ways we've yet to fully comprehend? As we journey through this exploration, we'll peel back the layers of biblical history, ancient texts, and even modern-day occurrences to uncover the possible truth behind the return of these fallen ones. From the Book of Enoch to the verses of Genesis, we'll examine the origins of the Nephilim and how their story intertwines with the cosmic battle between light and darkness. We'll explore how ancient prophecy might be manifesting right before our eyes in the form of genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and even the rise of strange phenomena such as UFOs and hybrid beings. Is it possible that these ancient entities are making their presence known once again? And if so, what does it mean for humanity and our future? Join us as we dive into the biblical accounts, hidden scriptures, and modern-day revelations to answer the burning question: are the Nephilim truly coming back? The story of the Nephilim begins in one of the most mysterious and enigmatic passages of the Bible. Genesis 6:1-4. These verses describe a time when the sons of God saw the daughters of men and took them as wives, producing offspring known as the Nephilim. The text offers few details about these beings, but it hints at their immense power and size, calling them the giants of old. But who exactly were the sons of God and the daughters of men? And what made the Nephilim so significant in the grand narrative of humanity's spiritual journey? The most common interpretation is that the sons of God were fallen angels, beings who were once in the heavenly realm but were cast down due to their rebellion. These angels, known as the Watchers in some traditions, were said to have descended to earth and intermingled with human women, creating a hybrid race of giants. The idea of angels taking human form and bearing children is a provocative one, but it also sheds light on the deeper spiritual consequences of such actions. According to the biblical text, this union was forbidden as it went against the natural order established by God. The result was the Nephilim, a race of beings so powerful and corrupt that they played a significant role in the decline of humanity. But the story doesn't end with Genesis. The Book of Enoch, an ancient text often considered apocryphal by mainstream Christianity, offers a more detailed account of the Nephilim and their origins. In this text, the fallen angels are named as specific watchers, and their descent to earth is described as a deliberate act of rebellion. The Watchers not only took human wives, but also taught humanity forbidden knowledge, including the secrets of magic warfare and even the arts of metallurgy. This knowledge, according to the Book of Enoch, led to widespread corruption and violence, ultimately contributing to the wickedness that led to the Great Flood. In examining the Nephilim's origins, we must also explore their symbolic significance. The Bible's account of the Nephilim is not merely a story of ancient beings, but a deeper metaphor for the consequences of crossing boundaries, both physical and spiritual. The Nephilim represent the union of the divine and the mortal, the celestial and the earthly. They embody the idea of forbidden knowledge, power, and corruption. In a sense, their very existence challenges the order of creation and disrupts the intended relationship between humans and the divine. It's important to note that not all interpretations of the Nephilim follow the traditional line of fallen angels. Some scholars argue that the sons of God were simply descendants of Seth, the righteous son of Adam, and the daughters of men were the descendants of Cain, the line of the first murderer. In this interpretation, the Nephilim are not supernatural beings, but rather humans who were large in stature or had extraordinary strength. However, this view doesn't fully account for the mysterious nature of the Nephilim as described in the Bible, nor does it explain the later prominence of giants in various ancient mythologies. The idea of giants or beings of extraordinary size and strength is not unique to the Bible. Throughout history and across cultures, there are tales of giants, beings who towered over ordinary humans and possessed incredible powers. From the Greek Titans to the Norse Jotnar giants, these figures appear in many ancient traditions. This widespread motif suggests that the Nephilim may have been part of a larger mythological tradition, one that transcended the boundaries of the Hebrew Bible. As we delve deeper into the origins of the Nephilim, we are confronted with questions that still challenge our understanding of the ancient world. Were they truly the offspring of angels and humans, or were they simply a symbol of the dangers of unchecked power and knowledge? Whether seen as literal beings or as allegorical representations, the Nephilim hold a significant place in the biblical narrative, and their story continues to resonate in both religious and cultural contexts today. In the next section, we'll explore the connection between the Nephilim and the fallen angels, who are said to have sired them, examining the deeper spiritual implications of their rebellion and the consequences that followed. To truly understand the Nephilim, we must first examine the beings who gave rise to them, the fallen angels or the Watchers. The concept of angels rebelling against God and descending to earth is one that captures the imagination, but it also carries profound spiritual implications. According to ancient texts, these Watchers were sent by God to observe humanity and guide them in the ways of righteousness. However, they chose to disobey their divine mandate. Instead of remaining celestial beings, they took human wives, an act that not only defied God's will, but forever altered the course of human history. The Bible's Genesis account is brief, but other ancient texts, such as the Book of Enoch, expand on the story, offering detailed insight into the actions of these rebellious angels. The Book of Enoch identifies 200 of these fallen angels, who are called the Watchers. These angels descended upon Mount Hermon, where they made a pact to defy God and intermingle with humans. They imparted forbidden knowledge to humanity, teaching them the secrets of magic, astrology, metallurgy, and warfare. This knowledge, though powerful, led to immense corruption, violence, and the eventual rise of the Nephilim. The Watchers' rebellion had consequences that rippled through both the heavenly realms and the earth. God, in his anger, condemned the Watchers to eternal punishment, binding them in the abyss until the end of time. Their actions, however, had already set into motion a series of events that would culminate in the Great Flood. The flood, according to the Bible, was sent by God to purge the earth of its wickedness, much of which was instigated by the Nephilim and the corrupted teachings of the fallen angels. The judgment upon the Watchers was a clear warning about the dangers of forbidden knowledge and the consequences of defying divine authority. But what does this mean for us today? The story of the fallen angels serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, knowledge, and influence. The Nephilim were not merely a race of giants. They were the product of spiritual rebellion, beings that arose from a desire to alter the natural order of creation. The fallen angels sought to elevate themselves above God's will, and in doing so, they corrupted the very fabric of humanity. Their actions remind us that when we attempt to transcend the boundaries set by divine wisdom, we risk plunging ourselves into chaos and destruction. The idea of fallen angels taking human wives also highlights the tension between the spiritual and the physical, the divine and the earthly. The Watchers' interference with humanity represents the crossing of a line that should not be crossed, an attempt to mix the celestial with the mortal. This theme of spiritual beings intervening in human affairs is not unique to Christianity. Many ancient cultures have similar myths and legends about gods or divine beings who descend to earth and interact with humanity, often with disastrous consequences. The Greeks had their gods, the Norse had their Aesir, and the Sumerians had their Anunnaki, all of whom were said to have interacted with humans in ways that shaped civilization. Yet in many of these stories, the interaction between the divine and the mortal leads to corruption, violence, and the eventual downfall of those involved. In addition to the spiritual corruption caused by the fallen angels, there is also the matter of the knowledge they imparted to humanity. The Watchers' teachings were not just about practical skills, but about esoteric and occult knowledge, powerful secrets that were meant to remain hidden. These teachings gave humanity the ability to manipulate the natural world, but they also opened the door to practices that were dangerous and destructive. The Nephilim, as the physical manifestation of this forbidden union, were the embodiment of this knowledge and its consequences. Their very existence was a testament to the dangers of seeking knowledge that was not meant for human beings. The implications of the fallen angels' actions extend beyond ancient times. The story of the Watchers and the Nephilim is not just a relic of the past, it serves as a warning for us today. In our age of technological advancements, genetic engineering, and artificial intelligence, we are once again facing the temptation to transcend our human limitations and seek knowledge that may be beyond our control. The rise of transhumanism, genetic modification, and the pursuit of immortality all echo the ancient story of the fallen angels. Are we like the Watchers, seeking to cross boundaries that were never meant to be crossed? Are we, in our pursuit of knowledge, repeating the same mistakes made by those who came before us, In the next part, we will explore how the Nephilim fit into biblical prophecy, examining the ways in which their return may be foretold, and how their influence continues to resonate in our world today. As we continue to explore the Nephilim and their profound impact on both ancient and modern history, it's essential to delve into the role they play in biblical prophecy. The Nephilim are not just a historical curiosity. They are central figures in the larger narrative of spiritual warfare and cosmic judgment. Their story, as told in Genesis, seems to hint at a deeper prophetic meaning that resonates throughout the Bible, especially when considering the end times. The first key prophecy to examine is found in Matthew 24:37-39, where Jesus draws a comparison between the days of Noah and the coming of the Son of Man. He states, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." This statement is crucial because the days of Noah were marked by widespread corruption, violence, and the existence of the Nephilim. Theologians and scholars have long debated whether Jesus was referring to the Nephilim when speaking about the conditions leading up to the end of the world. If we interpret this prophecy through the lens of the Nephilim, then Jesus seems to suggest that the return of such corruption, spiritually, morally, and physically, will mark the final days before his second coming. The Nephilim in this context represent a kind of spiritual and moral degradation that will once again take root in the world. Their very existence was a product of forbidden knowledge, human rebellion, and divine disfavor. As such, the return of the Nephilim, whether in physical or symbolic form, could signal a new era of darkness and chaos, much like the one that led to the Great Flood in Noah's time. This return, as suggested by some biblical scholars, could be the catalyst for the final battle between good and evil, a battle that will culminate in the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. Another crucial prophecy that points to the Nephilim's return is found in the Old Testament, specifically in the book of Daniel. In Daniel 2, King Nebuchadnezzar dreams of a great statue made of various metals, each representing a kingdom that will rise and fall throughout history. The dream ends with a stone cut, without hands, striking the statue's feet and destroying it, signifying the end of these earthly kingdoms and the establishment of God's everlasting reign. Many interpreters believe that this prophecy refers to the ultimate victory of God over all earthly powers, including the rebellious forces represented by the Nephilim. Interestingly, some interpretations of Daniel 2 suggest that the feet of the statue, composed of iron and clay, symbolize a mixture of human and divine, perhaps even a hybrid creation akin to the Nephilim. This hybrid mixture represents the merging of spiritual and earthly forces that were never intended to coexist. Just as the Nephilim were a product of the mingling of angels and humans, the end times may be marked by a resurgence of such hybridization. The idea of transhumanism, genetic manipulation, and the rise of artificial intelligence all echo the ancient prophecy of the iron and clay feet, an unstable foundation that ultimately crumbles when confronted with divine truth. The Nephilim are also mentioned in the book of Revelation, where the concept of spiritual warfare and the rise of dark forces is a central theme. Revelation 12 describes a great war in heaven, where Michael and his angels fight against the dragon Satan and his angels. This battle symbolizes the ongoing spiritual struggle between light and darkness, a theme that ties into the Nephilim's legacy. These beings, who were originally part of God's divine plan, became agents of rebellion and corruption. In the end, times it is believed that similar forces, whether they are literal Nephilim or symbolic representations of corruption, will rise up once more, bringing chaos and conflict before the final judgment. The connection between the Nephilim and the end times becomes even clearer when we examine the concept of giants in biblical prophecy. The Nephilim are often depicted as giants, and in the context of prophetic literature, giants are not merely oversized beings. They represent the forces of rebellion and destruction that arise when humanity aligns itself with evil. The giants of ancient prophecy are seen as embodiments of spiritual corruption, a corruption that spreads through the generations like a virus. Just as the Nephilim brought great destruction during the time of Noah, their spiritual descendants are believed to play a role in the final days. As we analyze the return of the Nephilim through the lens of prophecy, we must also consider the rise of modern phenomena that mirror their influence. The concept of hybrid beings, creatures that are part human and part something else, has become a topic of intense discussion in contemporary society. From the rise of genetic engineering and cloning to the creation of artificial intelligence, the idea of blending the human and the non-human is no longer confined to ancient myths. Some believe that the Nephilim's return is already happening in a more subtle form through the manipulation of genetics technology and even the spiritual realms. Are the Nephilim truly coming back as the prophecies suggest? Or are we witnessing the emergence of something new, something that echoes the ancient rebellion, but in a different guise? In either case, the return of the Nephilim, whether literal or symbolic, could signal the beginning of a new spiritual war, one that challenges the very foundations of human existence. In the next part, we will examine how modern technology and current events might be connected to the rise of the Nephilim, and whether humanity's pursuit of forbidden knowledge is leading us down the same path of corruption and destruction that was once walked by these ancient beings. The concept of the Nephilim beings, born of forbidden unions between the divine and human realms, may seem like an ancient relic belonging to a bygone era. However, as we venture deeper into the present age, we find that the potential for their return may not be as distant or fantastical as it first seems. Today we are confronted with advancements in technology and science that at times seem to mirror the same desires that led to the creation of the Nephilim: the pursuit of transcending natural limits, the blending of human and non-human entities, and the unlocking of knowledge that was once thought to be forbidden. A key element in understanding the return of the Nephilim in modern terms is the advent of genetic engineering. Over the past few decades, humanity has unlocked the ability to manipulate DNA, creating genetically modified organisms, GMOs, and more controversially, genetically engineered humans. The ability to alter the very essence of life brings with it immense power, but also immense responsibility. The question arises, are we like the fallen angels before us, tampering with the natural order of creation by attempting to alter the genetic code of life? Could this be the modern equivalent of the forbidden knowledge that the Nephilim once embodied? Human genetic modification is one of the most discussed and debated topics today, especially in light of CRISPR technology, a gene editing tool that allows scientists to modify DNA with incredible precision. Some see this as a breakthrough in medicine, perhaps a way to eradicate genetic diseases or extend human lifespan. However, there are darker implications as well. The ability to design designer babies, genetically enhanced individuals, or even create entirely new hybrid species brings us closer to the kind of hybridization that the Nephilim represented. Just as the fallen angels once crossed the boundary between divine and human by taking human wives, today's advancements could result in the creation of beings that straddle the line between humanity and something else entirely. Moreover, the concept of artificial intelligence, AI, and transhumanism is growing at an exponential rate. The pursuit of merging human consciousness with machines, the creation of robots with human-like intelligence, and the idea of uploading consciousness into synthetic bodies are no longer concepts confined to science fiction. As technology progresses, we must ask ourselves, is this pursuit of artificial life and the merging of man and machine akin to the spiritual rebellion of the fallen angels? Could AI, with its vast intelligence and potential for manipulation, be the modern-day equivalent of the forbidden knowledge that the Nephilim brought to humanity? The very idea of transhumanism, which advocates for the enhancement of human physical and intellectual capacities through technology, suggests that humanity is trying to transcend its natural limitations. In many ways, this pursuit mirrors the ancient desire for forbidden knowledge and the alteration of the human experience. The Nephilim, created through unnatural unions, were said to be beings of great strength and power, embodying both divine and human qualities. Similarly, transhumanism aims to create a new kind of human one, who is no longer bound by the weaknesses of the flesh, but has access to superhuman abilities through technological enhancement. However, this desire to transcend human limitations raises ethical and spiritual questions. Much like the Watchers who defied God's will, humans today are pushing the boundaries of what was once thought to be sacred and untouchable. While genetic engineering and AI could bring about great advancements, they also pose risks. What happens when we try to control and alter life itself? Are we, as the Watchers did, overstepping our bounds and inviting destruction? The connection between the Nephilim and these modern technologies becomes even clearer when we consider the symbolism of the giants in prophecy. The Nephilim as giants were not only physically formidable, but also represented a disruption of the natural order. They embodied the corruption that arises when divine and earthly realms collide in a way that was never meant to happen. In a similar vein, the rise of AI, genetic manipulation, and transhumanism represents the potential for humanity to disturb the natural order in ways that could have catastrophic consequences. Furthermore, the rise of hybrid beings, whether in the form of genetically engineered organisms or AI-enhanced humans, calls to mind the creation of the Nephilim. Just as the Nephilim were the product of a forbidden union, today's hybrid beings are the result of humanity's efforts to blend the biological with the artificial. The creation of hybrids, whether through genetic modification or AI, echoes the ancient story of angels mingling with humanity, a union that led to the corruption of creation and the eventual judgment that followed. The question remains, are we on the verge of a new era? One where the Nephilim's influence returns in a modern guise. If we look closely at the advancements in genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and transhumanism, we may find that we are walking down a path that mirrors the rebellion of the fallen angels. In our pursuit of knowledge and power, we may be inviting the same corruption that led to the rise of the Nephilim, a corruption that not only affected the spiritual realm, but also had lasting effects on the material world. In the next part, we will delve deeper into how these modern phenomena, along with the rise of globalism, secret knowledge, and strange cosmic events, might be connected to the return of the Nephilim, and explore the prophetic significance of these signs in our world today. The concept of the Nephilim, though rooted in ancient texts and prophecies, has transcended the biblical canon, becoming a recurring motif in modern popular culture. Whether through films, books, or television, the image of the Nephilim has been reimagined and repurposed, often bearing striking resemblance to the original biblical descriptions. But beyond the sensationalism, what does this widespread portrayal reveal about society's collective unconscious and its growing fascination with these ancient beings? In literature and cinema, the Nephilim are often portrayed as powerful, enigmatic giants who straddle the line between the divine and the mortal. These figures are frequently depicted as morally ambiguous, embodying both heroism and corruption in equal measure. From the Lord of the Rings to Percy Jackson, and beyond giants and demigods, beings who possess powers beyond those of ordinary humans have captivated the imaginations of audiences. In many ways, these fictional depictions echo the biblical notion of the Nephilim as extraordinary beings who wield significant influence over humanity. Yet the portrayal of these characters in fiction is often far removed from the darker connotations present in the original biblical texts. While the Nephilim in Genesis were tied to a story of rebellion and divine judgment, popular culture tends to emphasize their strength and abilities, painting them as either tragic figures or heroes, rather than as corrupted beings. For example, in films like Clash of the Titans, the mythological giants are often presented as both powerful and sympathetic, thereby subverting the original narrative of their destruction and casting them in a more positive light. One of the most famous portrayals of giant beings, particularly those who resemble the Nephilim, can be found in the popular fantasy and superhero genres. In the Marvel and DC universes, characters with godlike powers, such as Thor Hercules or the Hulk, embody traits that align with the Nephilim archetype. These characters, like the Nephilim, are often depicted as beings caught between two worlds, the mortal world they inhabit, and the divine or supernatural world from which they originate. This blending of the human and divine evokes the ancient story of the Nephilim's origins and their subsequent corruption. Moreover, there is a growing trend in contemporary storytelling that blends the sacred with the profane, often exploring themes of forbidden knowledge and power. The idea of hybrid beings, such as the Nephilim, has evolved in many modern contexts to represent the dangers of merging the divine with the human. In films like The Matrix and The Terminator, AI and machines begin to take on a godlike status, giving rise to a new breed of hybrid beings that are neither fully human nor fully divine. In these stories, the Nephilim's return is often reflected in the rise of technological and artificial intelligences that transcend human limitations. This blending of mythology with modern science and technology highlights a deep cultural anxiety. The idea that humanity might one day merge with artificial entities or engage in genetic manipulation brings us face to face with the same moral dilemmas faced by the fallen angels in Genesis. The Nephilim, born from an unnatural union of divine and human, serve as a warning of what can happen when boundaries between the sacred and the profane are crossed. Popular culture, in its fascination with the Nephilim, reflects this anxiety about humanity's growing ability to manipulate the very fabric of life itself. But beyond the surface-level portrayals, there is a deeper question. Why are we so obsessed with these hybrid beings in modern storytelling? The Nephilim are not simply characters to be idolized or feared. They symbolize something far more profound. Our collective unease about humanity's pursuit of power and knowledge at the expense of the natural order. The Nephilim represent a transgression of divine law, and our ongoing fascination with them in popular culture speaks to a deep-seated fear that humanity is on the brink of repeating the same mistakes made by the fallen angels of old. In recent years, there's been an increasing interest in apocalyptic fiction, where hybrid beings, fallen angels, and otherworldly entities return to bring about the end of days. In these narratives, the Nephilim often act as harbingers of chaos and destruction, foreshadowing the collapse of society. This theme is prevalent in films like Transformers and Pacific Rim, where ancient godlike beings, sometimes robots or extraterrestrial entities, emerge to challenge humanity. These stories tap into the ancient fears associated with the Nephilim and the fallen angels' beings that defy the natural order and bring about great calamity. Interestingly, the Nephilim are also explored in conspiracy theories and esoteric thought, where they are seen as symbols of hidden knowledge and secret power. In these circles, the Nephilim are often associated with ancient wisdom that has been suppressed by powerful elites. The idea that the Nephilim may be returning to take control of humanity once again is a popular theme in certain conspiracy theories, which claim that world events are being orchestrated by shadowy organizations that possess knowledge passed down from the ancient times of the Nephilim. This blend of ancient mythology, modern technology, and esoteric knowledge paints a picture of a world in which the Nephilim, or beings like them, might indeed be making their presence felt again. Whether through the rise of hybrid humans, artificial intelligence, or even extraterrestrial beings, the fear and fascination surrounding the Nephilim are as relevant today as they were in ancient times. In the next section, we will examine how current global trends, mysterious events, and spiritual teachings might be signaling the actual return of the Nephilim, or at the very least their influence on the world today. As we look around the world today, it becomes apparent that something extraordinary is unfolding. From the rise of globalism and secret societies to unexplained phenomena in the sky, the signs that we may be nearing the return of the Nephilim, or at least a resurgence of their influence, are more evident than ever. In this part, we will explore the potential signs and warnings that point to the possibility that the Nephilim are returning in a new form, one that may not be entirely physical, but certainly spiritual and symbolic. As we dive into these modern signs, we must also consider the ancient prophecies that foreshadow such events and reflect on what they mean for humanity's future. One of the most compelling indicators of the Nephilim's potential return is the rise of globalism and the centralization of power. Across the globe, we are witnessing the consolidation of political, economic, and social power into the hands of a few. Whether it is through the creation of supranational organizations like the United Nations or the push for a single global currency, these efforts to unite the world under a singular authority seem to echo the ancient idea of a unified empire ruled by powerful supernatural beings. This centralization of power is not a new phenomenon, but it is becoming more pronounced, raising questions about who is really pulling the strings behind the scenes. Some believe that these powerful elites have access to hidden knowledge, possibly even the forbidden knowledge that the Nephilim once brought to humanity. The rise of transhumanism and genetic engineering is another glaring sign of the Nephilim's potential return. As mentioned in previous sections, humanity is now attempting to transcend its biological limitations through technologies like CRISPR gene editing, cloning, and the creation of artificial intelligence. This desire to manipulate the very building blocks of life echoes the ancient story of the Nephilim beings who were created through a forbidden union of the divine and human realms. The Nephilim were giant beings who possessed extraordinary power and knowledge, but their creation came at the expense of the natural order. Similarly, today's pursuit of transhumanism and genetic manipulation could lead to the creation of hybrid beings or superhumans, mirroring the very essence of the Nephilim. Additionally, UFO sightings and the ongoing fascination with extraterrestrial life have captivated the global imagination. Many believers in ancient astronaut theory argue that the Nephilim were not just giants born of angels and humans, but were also beings from another world, perhaps extraterrestrial entities who came to Earth and influenced humanity. The idea that we are being visited by beings from other planets who may possess advanced technologies far beyond our own resonates with the ancient accounts of the Nephilim. The symbolism of giants descending from the heavens is strikingly similar to modern UFO encounters, where large otherworldly beings are often depicted as coming from the stars. Could these phenomena be signaling the return of the Nephilim, or at least the awakening of their influence on Earth? Another key sign is the increased interest in esoteric teachings and occult knowledge. From secret societies to modern-day cults, there is a growing fascination with ancient wisdom and hidden knowledge that was once thought to be lost to history. The Nephilim, as beings who brought forbidden knowledge to humanity, represent a pivotal point in spiritual history. Their teachings were said to have included the secrets of magic warfare and even the creation of weapons of mass destruction. Today, we see a resurgence of interest in these ancient occult practices, with many seeking to uncover hidden truths that were supposedly passed down from the Nephilim. This thirst for forbidden knowledge mirrors the original story of the Nephilim and their influence over humanity, suggesting that perhaps we are once again standing on the brink of a great awakening or a great fall. Perhaps the most troubling of all signs is the spiritual disconnection that is pervasive in today's world. With the rise of materialism, secularism, and a general disregard for spiritual truths, humanity seems to be drifting further away from its divine roots. The Nephilim were created when the heavenly realm crossed into the earthly one, disrupting the natural order. Today, the gap between humanity and the divine seems to be widening, with many people rejecting spiritual teachings in favor of a purely materialistic worldview. This spiritual void leaves room for the rise of forces that seek to control and corrupt, much like the fallen angels did in the days of Noah. In addition to these signs, there are mysterious events that continue to capture the public's attention. From strange occurrences in the sky to inexplicable phenomena around the world, there are countless reports that seem to align with the idea that something otherworldly is at play. These events, while often dismissed as coincidences or myths, have been seen by some as indicators of the Nephilim's return. Whether through symbolic appearances or direct interventions, it is possible that these strange occurrences are the work of forces that have been hidden from view for millennia. The question remains, what should we do with these signs? Are they merely coincidences, or do they point to a greater, more profound truth? Are we witnessing the return of the Nephilim in a modern form? Or are these events simply part of the natural progression of humanity's development? Whether literal or metaphorical, the Nephilim serve as a warning, the pursuit of forbidden knowledge, and the crossing of boundaries that were meant to remain sacred can lead to catastrophic consequences. In the final part of this video, we will look at how the Nephilim's return could reshape our understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos and what role we must play in confronting the challenges that lie ahead. As the world faces increasing uncertainty, the age-old question remains: are we prepared for the return of the Nephilim? Or are we already being subtly influenced by their ancient legacy? As we draw this exploration of the Nephilim to a close, it becomes evident that their story is far from over. What began as a mysterious account in Genesis, tucked away in the annals of ancient scripture, has transcended its biblical origins and seeped into the collective consciousness of humanity. The Nephilim were not just ancient beings, they were a warning, a prophecy, and a symbol of what can occur when humanity crosses boundaries that were never meant to be crossed. Whether through the rise of global powers, the manipulation of genetics, the pursuit of forbidden knowledge, or the mysterious signs and events unfolding in our world today, the Nephilim's influence may be closer than we realize. In ancient times, the Nephilim were associated with chaos, rebellion, and the bending of divine laws. They represented the collision of divine power and earthly desires, creating a race that was both powerful and corrupted. Their return, as foretold in prophecy, would herald a new era of spiritual warfare, one that may not just be physical, but psychological and spiritual. The giants of old, the fallen angels, and the hybrid beings that emerged from their unions with humanity served as a mirror for our own collective struggles with power, knowledge, and corruption. As we look at our world today, it's impossible not to notice the parallels. The same thirst for power, control, and transcendence that led to the Nephilim's creation is mirrored in the technologies we pursue and the ideologies we embrace. From genetic engineering to artificial intelligence, we are playing with forces that could potentially disrupt the natural order of life, just as the Watchers did in ancient times. The idea of transcending human limitations through science and technology, whether through enhancing our bodies or merging with machines, raises the same questions that have echoed through time. What happens when we overstep our bounds? What happens when we tamper with the very essence of creation? The return of the Nephilim is not necessarily a return of physical giants from the sky. It may not look like the stories told in our favorite movies or books. Rather, it may come in the form of new ideas, new technologies, and new ways of thinking that push humanity to a precipice. The Nephilim were not just beings of great strength. They were embodiments of rebellion against divine order. The modern world in many ways mirrors that same rebellion. The quest for immortality, the manipulation of life, and the rise of a global order that seeks to control all aspects of human existence could be the very seeds of a new age of Nephilim-like entities. As we face these challenges, it's crucial to remember that the story of the Nephilim is not one of despair, but of awakening. Just as their rise was a time of judgment, it is also a time for us to reflect on our own path. Are we walking the path of light following divine wisdom, or are we succumbing to the allure of forbidden knowledge? The return of the Nephilim may be a warning for us to reevaluate our place in the world, to discern the forces that seek to shape our future, and to understand the consequences of our actions. The Nephilim story reminds us that the battle between good and evil, the divine and the corrupted, is not a story of the past. It is an ongoing struggle that continues in each of us. We are faced with choices every day that echo the ancient rebellion of the Watchers. As we venture deeper into the future, we must decide which path we will take: the path of corruption and power, or the path of wisdom, humility, and faith. So as we stand at the crossroads of this ancient prophecy and the modern world, it's essential to ask, what role will we play in this story? Will we fall victim to the same forces that created the Nephilim? Or will we rise above, choosing a higher path and protecting the sanctity of our souls? The return of the Nephilim may not be something we can avoid, but how we respond to it, both as individuals and as a collective, will shape the future of humanity. As we close this chapter, we invite you to reflect on these ancient teachings and ask yourself, what is your role in the unfolding story of the Nephilim? Are you prepared to face the challenges of our time and stand firm in the light? The answers, as always, lie within us, and it is up to each of us to seek wisdom, truth, and the guidance of the divine. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of the Nephilim and the ancient prophecies that continue to shape our world. May you walk in wisdom, remain vigilant, and always seek the light.